And then we need them for
I'm
here.
not swearing anybody in.
This needs to be a reso. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have the pro-housing,
Pro-housing.
the amendment to the fees, master fee schedule, the fund balance policy, and the Ferry Festa street closure
Yep, gotcha.
so far.
Yeah.
God, it's hot here.
Yeah, I should change the, I can ask Steve to,
Welcome, everybody, to the regular Board of Trustees meetings for Tuesday, March 12th, 2024. Is there a motion to open tonight's meeting? Trustee Patino, second trustee Rosen Asher, all in favor. Meeting is hereby open. Trustee Sullivan and trustee Rosenberg are excused for tonight, so it's just us five. So can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Mayor, can you turn the air on?
Yes, you can.
Any resolution for that?
We need to vote. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a motion?
Let me get the air conditioning going. Summer's here.
Not until, I think,
Thank you.
tomorrow's gonna
You
change.
can't afford that.
Next week it's gonna be very extravagant. Okay, so the first item on our agenda is an appointment. So these are always good to do. So we have someone who's going to start as a laborer for the Department of Public Works, and that person is John Dougherty. And I want to welcome him to Dobbs Ferry and to family, although we haven't done the actual motion yet, but we will do that. Rob, do you want to tell us a little background on that?
Happy to, Mayor. It was my pleasure to meet you, John. Very, very gentlemanly, very professional, and I think you'll fit in well with the crew. So thanks for the application. You beat out a lot of good contenders. So again, with the will of the board moving forward, I will look forward to working with you. And again, feel free to reach out with any questions. I understand you have a lot of experience from Eastchester, and I can read through the resolution if you'd like, just to hit a couple of points. This is the starting laborer position, which was vacant in the Department of Public Works since January due to a resignation. So it's a fully, as I mentioned, it's a vacated position that's budgeted and needs to be filled. Via yourself, Mr. John Dougherty, you're eligible for permanent appointment as a starting laborer in accordance with the Civil Service Rules of Westchester County Department of Human Resources. So you'll have to go through a whole, basically a period of appointment from like a probationary period, which I'm sure you'll pass with flying colors. So basically, I put forth to the board, and again, Steve Trezza, in charge of DPW, went through the applications with Jen as well, Jen Dorman, and again, you rose to the top. So congratulations to you on that. And the rest is just having the board do their thing and paperwork-wise. But look forward to working with you.
Okay, so is there a motion to appoint Mr. John Dougherty as starting laborer for the Department of Public Works in the Village of Dobbs Ferry, effective start to be determined? Which start date would that be?
Right, on or before April 1st? Or, I don't know if that was established.
25th.
The 25th? March 25th.
Okay, so is there a motion? Trustee Rosen Asher, second trustee Taylor, all in favor? That passes unanimously, so congratulations, and good luck.
Welcome aboard.
Look forward to working with you. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Look forward to seeing you on the 25th. On the truck? You gonna put him on the truck? Okay.
Did you want to introduce anybody while you're here, or?
Yeah, why don't you come, I'll come around.
This is the hardest part of the job.
Who do you have here?
Get the,
My girlfriend Taylor, my dad John, my mother Christine, and my sister Nicole.
Why don't you all come on up?
And of course, my buddy TC.
getting the newsletter.
Yep.
You're welcome.
Heard from but never seen. Yeah. Watch the
I
step
have a
over
face for radio.
there.
Although, you know what, I don't know when I'm gonna get to your store. Or I could pick it up, look, I could knock on your door or something if you weren't even home. Maybe that's the way to do it. Okay.
Steve, make sure he stays for the whole meeting.
Dinner on Thursday.
Stay.
On Friday.
Wait, drinks are on him later. Where's he going?
You're welcome.
Welcome.
The second item on the agenda is a presentation regarding 99 Main Street renovation. So who's ever here for 99 Main Street, please step up, introduce yourself and your team, and the computer is yours.
Is this working?
It is?
Mayor and trustees, we're so happy to be here tonight. I'm Mike Lewis. Our firm is Michael Lewis Architects. We're located at 145 Palisades Street, down the hill from here. Have been for 15 years. We're thrilled to be here to present this. Really, it's a reconstruction of the building at 99 Main Street. Our client, Jack Zadrima, is a real estate developer who will be moving his offices here. So it's an exciting project as they intend to occupy this building, and we're expanding it up to create some additional dwelling units above. Pete Gulick here is a great architect. We've been working together for 25 years. He's sort of put his heart into it, and he'll present you with the details on the project.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Mayor and everyone. I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Jack Zadrima. Part of what we do is development, but we've been in multifamily housing I myself for 30 years plus. I have my partner Mackenzie. My son is part of our team. Dale is part of our team. And we look forward to making our office and our home in Dobbs Ferry. Mackenzie spent a lot of time in the river towns and has raved about it. I, growing up in the Bronx and eventually moving up the line to Westchester and Putnam, have always loved the river towns. And whenever our office is currently in the Bronx, and we're looking forward to moving up here. And whenever people ask, why are you going to Dobbs Ferry? When I make that left turn onto Main Street, I feel like I'm going into Mayberry. And it's such a good feeling, and we're really looking forward to this project. We're looking forward to making this our home, because we really spend that much time in the office. So we hope you welcome us with our ideas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
1 minute, let me just get us set up here.
While we're waiting, Laura Lee, can you tell us what the next step would be for us?
Sure. Following the presentation, you have the option to it's a mandatory referral to your planning board, and you have the option to act on that tonight. That would start the process toward this site plan application under review. The planning board traditionally holds a public hearing and takes comments, and eventually it will find its way back to you, because you are the jurisdictional agency for the site plan on this matter. There are a number of substantive issues raised in your planning consultant's memo. I had asked Sarah to send that comments memo to the applicant in advance of tonight, so they were aware of some of the issues that were raised in the initial review. So this has to go to the county. It's a site plan, so it has to go to the county. And also, you need to commence your SECRA process by declaring your intent to serve as lead agency for the purposes of SECRA.
Okay, and Valerie, you wrote a memo on this. Can you come up and just tell us what we're faced with?
Memo I'm Valerie Menastra from Nelson Pope and Voorhees, Village Planning Consultant. The memo itself just really sort of identifies some of the initial comments on the project, but there are two comments, and two things just to highlight in terms of potential waivers or variances that might be required. And I did double check those with the building inspector as well. And one deals with the fourth story, or excuse me, fourth story. Technically in your code, it says the livable floor area of the fourth story, if permitted, shall not compromise more than 50% of the total floor area of the story below. Right now that they're potentially exceeding that, so that's something that the Board of Trustees will have to either waive or provide or request for a zoning variance for. The other item specifically dealing with this is also that the Board of Trustees has to weigh in whether you actually want to allow for that fourth floor. So that's something, it's just not an as of right, it's something that the applicant is asking for, and so that's something that the board can also consider as part of this review. And then the other thing is that the particular fourth story does require certain setbacks, and the applicant is proposing those setbacks in accordance with the code. So for the most part, you know, they're minor waivers that might be necessary, but they are things that the board is going to have to consider, and also the square footage of one of the apartments, but I believe the applicant is going to amend that. That was something that was under the zoning requirements, and it's something that I think the applicants could amend in future site plans.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Pete Gould from Michaelis Architects. I just wanted to walk you through the project, bring up a few of the issues, and then answer any questions on them. This is just a drawing that we had done after the BOT proposal that we had sent in originally, so we just wanted to show that, just in existing conditions, and then just a drawing, a sketch drawing of what the proposed building would look like here on 99 Main. So let's just go through the rest of the drawings quickly and show you what we have. This is the streetscape, again, showing 99 Main, the existing, and then with the proposed building put in. And these are just some of the photos down below of the neighborhood and the surrounding area. Screen here. It's just the zoning charts and the plot plan. This is our basement plan, all commercial use there. And then the first floor plan. Commercial office, for sure. That's something we have to.
Yes, that was an issue, yes, that was an issue.
Yeah. And then again, on the first floor, same thing. You walk into larger office with a rear space, rear terrace space, and then on the left side of the front, you enter into smaller vestibule for the apartments that are upstairs on the second, third, and fourth floors. Then moving up to the second floor, you come up on the stairs, and we've broken that into two apartments, a smaller, more affordable one in the front, which is a studio, about 490 square feet, and then one bedroom in the back. So this is one of the units that's smaller. We can talk about that when we're done. And then moving up onto the third floor, that's a nice two-bedroom apartment with a large terrace in the back again. And then moving up to the fourth floor, it's a smaller one-bedroom with a terrace in the front with the required setback on the fourth floor if we're granted that, and then a smaller terrace on the back, all like looking out onto the Hudson on these terraces. Then we've got a roof plan, some of our HVAC equipment, some solar panels. This is just a sheet showing all the plans at once, just to get an idea of how that goes together. Here we have the existing front elevation and proposed above, and the same thing of the rear elevation and the proposed rear elevation as well. And then we move into some of the section and elevation drawings. This is an elevation south elevation looking up towards the north. Again, existing below and proposed on the top. You can see how we're stepping, to reduce the mass of what the building could be. We've stepped it back here, just back and back and back up until the 4th floor. We could have built about, I think, 80% lot coverage on this, but we haven't changed the footprint in any way. We're just expanding up on this proposed 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floors. And then again, another elevation of the north elevation looking towards the south over 101 Main Street, which goes front all the way back to the right-of-way alley here. And then this is a section through the whole building from the south side looking north. And you can see how it's stepping back and back and back. And that's the last slide. And some of the issues that were brought up from Valerie, the first one was this smaller unit on the 2nd floor. It's a studio apartment. We thought it'd be nice to have a smaller, affordable unit there. It's 497, almost 500 square feet. So that's one variance we're asking for. We could also always redo that and make them 2 larger units there, but we thought it'd be nice to have the smaller unit there. The other ask is a 4th floor in itself, in its entirety, and that's up to the discretion of the board. We've got the 12-foot setback, and we've also lifted the front of the parapet up a little higher than the floor level, so that from the street, you really don't see too much of that 4th floor. So that is larger. One of the things is the 4th floor is only supposed to be 50% of the floor below, but since we're not taking up a lot of this other usable space that we could have bulk-wise, that's the ask we have back here, just some added square footage on the, which is on the rear of this 4th floor.
So what's that top unit minus the terraces is about 800 square feet, did you say?
Yeah, it's a little over 800 square feet, that upper.
What would your footprint be if you were maximized?
Maximized?
Yeah, I'm just curious if, where this
We
lands.
could go out, we could go all the way out. Well, we could go out even further than this. We could
What's your basement square footage? Or the
about-
cellar, or whatever you're calling it?
It's about 1,300,
Okay.
so.
You'd still
And
be a
again-
little over if you were, I'm just curious
Oh, sure.
where it falls in the spectrum of a building that, maximizes footprint.
Yeah, I think we're at about almost 7,000 square feet. I think, there's probably a few thousand undeveloped in, if we were to push back all the way up to here, which, theoretically you could do, but it would be pretty bulky back there. That's why we've stepped it back like this, to maximize the views and, just so we don't have this massive building in the back, it's breaking it up.
You're trying to remain in context with the surrounding property.
Yeah. So those were the issues, and then I guess the 4th issue, not an issue, is the parking and PLOP here. We've got 5 additional spots. We've got 2 existing spots in the rear between the right-of-way and our basement level here, but the apartments on the upper levels would add 5 additional spots. And we are close to the train station, pretty walkable here, and also not too far from the Cedar Street parking lot. So I don't know if there's anything that we could do with the PLOP in terms of reducing that number.
One of the prospective tenants is going to be working.
And these are rentals? These are rentals. The apartments will be rentals, okay.
So your offices will be in the basement, and then you'll have a second commercial space on the 1st floor?
There, it's going to be all, the first and basement will be all our office.
Okay. I thought you were saying that one of the tenants wanted to be in the commercial space.
No, I said one of the residential tenants is going to he'll work downstairs.
Welcome to the village.
Will you be driving to work?
Yeah, there's an internal stair between the 1st floor and the basement level, lower level.
And was there something about, if I'm remembering, there were 2 commercial spots behind
There are.
the building? Okay,
Yeah,
so
that
those
could-
only, Lori Lee, those would only apply to
Commercial.
those, and are there 5 additional
Yeah,
parking?
5. There's 2 existing that are for the commercial, and then the 2nd, 3rd, the 4 apartments They require five
Five-
additional spaces.
5 additional, and
Yeah, from
those
the-
2 commercial spots can't be, like, count, I'm just curious. Can the 2?
I asked the same thing earlier. I was,
I'm not sure I understand. I don't think.
So
you
there
finished
is
your
already
question.
2 commercial spots there. They require 5 for the residential units. Could those 2 commercial spots be redeployed as residential spots?
The spots are the total, so they can be assigned however you want them to be
But
assigned.
they're
the
not
spots
We don't,
require
we
a
don't
total.
have in our code an ability, like what you're saying is that if you go to work during the day, you're not there when they're parking in the commercial spaces. Right now, our code for parking doesn't allow,
Share.
yeah, for that deduction.
But commercial buildings aren't required to have spots, right?
Yes, they are, based upon the square footage of the
Right,
place.
so
It's
that's
a
what
different
she's asking.
calculation.
Oh, I see.
It's
So
like a
the
different-
calculation that's required is based on 2 commercial floors and
Yes, the
3
square footage.
residential.
You want to opine? Come on up.
I was wondering where you went. I didn't see you behind Steven, sorry.
So there are, so in your code, you do allow for, it's the parking that's required is based on new commercial space that's developed and new residential space, new residential units that are developed. So the applicant was put forth that they already have 2 spaces that cover, it's really more of a mathematical calculation as opposed to ultimately how they plan to deal with the actual operations of that particular site.
Thank you.
And I do believe you have something with shared parking, and if I can look into that in a second.
So essentially, the 4th floor is completely within the purview of the Village Board of Trustees. And since you are sending this to the planning board, you should give an indication whether you are amenable to that 4th floor. I'm not discussing the size of it, because that will need a waiver in and of itself. But if you are in agreement that this 4th floor provides, under the criteria in your code, that applicable, it encourages this other type of housing, et cetera, then you should certainly think about that tonight, because if you're sending it to the planning board is going to look at that 4th floor and going to send it back to you with the 4th floor in place. But if you're absolutely against the 4th floor, you should let the applicant know.
Well, we're looking at this for the first time, and there's only 5 of us here, so it's, you know.
I also think it's a little bit circular, but the planning board's opinion, I think, could affect this board's decision.
Right, not in terms of the 4th floor. If the 4th floor meets this, it's only
It's a hard decision.
in your
that's what she's
purview.
saying.
Okay, the code says, so historically speaking, this issue, when it goes to planning or architecture review, the question is always, no one wants to review it there because they don't want to review a 4-story project if the board is not going to approve a
Right,
4-story.
Exactly.
Correct.
So
Right.
they would work through with the applicant a 3-story building if this board was opposed to the 4th story.
This is this is like, just philosophically, or, so I will say this. We just completed this huge downtown improvement grant survey, and overwhelmingly, people did say that they would like to see housing downtown. And as our population ages and people no longer need a 5 or 6 bedroom house or want to pay the taxes on a 5 or 6 bedroom house, we don't have a lot of options for people downtown. And one of the suggestions made by the consultants was to think about building up, because most of the buildings in our downtown are 1 or 2 stories. And if we added 1 or 2 stories to those buildings, that would significantly increase foot traffic and increase the economic viability of the downtown. So
You're okay with it.
I'm okay with it.
Mike?
I think it's I mean, it's a very welcome addition to take that building and do what you're proposing to it. I see it's a harmonious 4-story building, so I have no problem whatsoever with the 4th story. Even, I mean, I think it should be worked out at the planning board, but that would be my suggestion to the planning board is to.
Larry?
I agree. I don't have a problem personally with it, but, the planning board obviously needs to weigh in as well on the design.
Jessica?
I I'm definitely open to the fourth floor. My concern would, as we think about how we're redeveloping the downtown, one of the main concerns is, are we obstructing people's river views and other pleasant views that we've have in other areas of our code that we're working to protect? They have, as of right, the ability to build a third story, so the only question is the delta on any reduced view between 3 and 4 stories, and it seems, I'm, looking at this for the first time, of course, but it seems to me that between the setback and the particular location of this building, there wouldn't be significant considerations on a reduced view for anyone who's in that vicinity, from what I can tell, so I'm.
Yeah, on our third floor goes up right now to 36 feet. I think you can go up to 40 feet there, but our entire building is 44 feet, so there's not much difference.
So it's
We could
4
almost-
feet above what you would be,
Yeah.
That's a good point. So it is 4 feet above?
okay. And it's set,
Yeah, it's very similar.
Is it the same height as that white building?
It's very similar to
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
103, 105.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
The
Can we see,
Riverton
can we
General.
see that again?
Yeah, I just want to point something out. As part of the planning board review process, they're required to look at certain view corridors. So a number of important views have been established walking along the aqueduct, for example.
Okay.
And so that is one of the criteria that the planning board looks at. And if they were, I have to say, there's a pretty small footprint on this fourth story. I know it's larger than 50% of the floor below it, but it's a small lot, it's a small building. So it's not a lot of mass.
Right.
I think they're obviously going to undertake that view analysis, and that's
The
part of it.
people in
But
these apartments will get river views.
yeah, and also, it's quite nice. It's like, it's also nice for the, on Palisade, just looking back up, that you have this facade that steps back, kind of works a little bit with this grade change. It's just, I don't
Can
know.
we see that again, the grade change you had in the back?
Sure, the section,
And Valerie, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, I just want to note that you do have, with parking, you do have shared parking allowances within your code in section 300-48H.
What does that mean?
It's,
in real
so
terms
it
for us?
depends on, there's a number of different criteria, but it does allow for if you have 2 uses, one in which its maximum occupancy is the opposite hours of the other use, that you could potentially ask a board to have those parking basically almost like a 100% deduction or reduction of the parking requirements, so that they basically share that spot.
Got it. Thank you. And so what is the height difference, if any, between your proposed Plan 99 Main and 105 Main, which is an existing building, 3 buildings down?
sure,
I mean,
the exact height of 103 to 105, just let me,
Okay. It looks, if this drawing is accurate.
it's a little higher.
A couple
I was just
feet
looking
higher.
at that on the way in, and the floors are very high,
Yeah, they
you know,
are,
on,
tall stories.
it almost looks like
This
it's
is,
got
that's
an attic, like a very shallow attic or something, but it's similar. And if you went further down the street, the back building and other ones, and then of course the printing house or even
Right, it's
taller.
not out of, it's in sort of
So in that,
line with.
in that bigger context, it probably fits even better.
big grade change here to here. I think if you come up here and you.
One thing that's important to note, though, is that on the proposed building, the new one, the fourth floor is set back 12 feet.
Right.
This portion right here is pushed back.
I see it.
Here, it's out.
If you were at that.
Right.
So as you're on the street looking up, you'll read the
Sorry.
the heavy cornice here, which caps the front facade.
Yeah.
But the rest of it is pushed back, and so that has, I think that's a great, line that's in the code, that setback, because it really changes the whole character of that. The building goes that high and straight up on the street, it's a really different experience. So I think that's an important distinction between the two buildings.
Although it doesn't affect the river views, if indeed this does block river views, right? Because you're still gonna have that mass, it's just further back. It depends on the sightline. From the street, yes, you're absolutely right. And it is a different feeling. It's more if you're across the street or potentially in the aqueduct, whether that has.
A
It
project
looks
that it
like the
might be.
building across the street wouldn't, given the
It
delta
sounds like
again
the planning
between.
board's gonna evaluate this, so we
Yes,
probably don't need to in this.
They have to look at the impacts, and It's
third
right in
floor
the
would be here.
code. The view sheds, solar access to the streetscape and surrounding buildings, use and enjoyment of the OCA, and consistency with the character of the individual building and surrounding buildings. So all of those are part of the review that will be done by the planning board and the HRB.
Right, and just for clarification, view sheds and view points of view are usually taken from public right-of-ways and not necessarily individually private homes.
That's correct, because you have no vested right in a view shed.
Say that again, Valerie?
So view sheds or public view are taken from public viewpoints. So in terms of like the old public parks, the old Croton Aqueduct, along streets, but not necessarily in individual private homes.
That's correct.
So if I was a private homeowner and I lost my view of the Hudson River due to,
Have no
Construction,
vested
I have
right in
no
view
right.
shed.
No, right.
Right.
I have no
That
right.
is right.
No private
Is
vested
that by
right.
New York State law or by our code?
That is New York State. Yeah. So it's not necessarily your code. So it just, because it's something that comes up a lot in terms of any sort of planning board review, not just in Dobbs Ferry, but in other communities. And so a lot of times people want to know how does it look from their particular backyard or their, so that's just something that, just letting the board understand that.
Shorter.
But the planning board will take into consideration any view sheds that are specifically noted in your LWRP, which has very specific view corridors and other prominent, locations.
There's also another project that's similar, well, much bigger than this, 66 Main Street, but about 2 or 3 times as wide as this, the third story, it's got to be maxed out, and it's got a 4th story as well.
right.
Kind of a railing pushed towards the front of that one, but it's a similar 3rd floor with a setback to a 4th floor down on 66 Main.
I think the only other 4th story that this board has approved since my tenure started here was just on the property next door. They approved, I think that's, what is that called, 110 Main Street, the property right next door. It didn't get developed. I think it was Patty's client that came in for those approvals. That's the only 4th story that's been approved in your discretion. It's the only 4th story that's been applied for.
Well, I was going to say, years ago, we would never have given a 4th story. I think we would have had a big fight about a 4th story. But I think as time has gone by, we realized the importance of having more housing downtown, and it brings vitality, money, and so I think the board is willing to consider a 4th story if it's well done. So I think with that notice, we'll pass it along to the planning board, and they can come look at it and come back with their views on it. Okay? Anything else?
Thank you.
Okay.
We still have to,
I have to vote on it.
yeah.
Yes, do you have a resolution?
So if we're ready, is there a motion where the Board of Trustees of the Village of Dobbs Ferry declares its intent to serve as lead agency for the environmental review of the project in accordance with SECRA, and that following review of the application materials, the Board of Trustees of the Village of Dobbs Ferry hereby determines the proposed project, classified as an unlisted action, will require a coordinated SECRA review with other involved agencies, and that as an essential precondition to further review of the proposed project, the Board of Trustees of the Village of Dobbs Ferry hereby directs the matter to be referred for comment and recommendation on the site plan application to the Dobbs Ferry Planning Board as required by the zoning code, and referred to the Westchester County Planning Board in accordance with general municipal law. Is there a motion? Trustee Rosen Asher, second trustee Patino, all in favor? That passes unanimously. So we met the first pass, so let's see where it goes from there. So you're welcome. Now's the time to leave, or else you'll be locked here for the next hour.
Or you can stay and enjoy the rest of the meeting.
Terry, I thought this was interesting. You just said at the workshop. you have
I don't know how they do it.
And this was right on your agenda.
You're welcome.
Have a great night.
Take
Thanks
care.
for coming.
Yes, thank
You
you.
need to win the lottery.
Yes.
I need Idris Elba to walk through the door.
Will that they will come.
Yeah, the consultants will be happy. Because they opened up my eyes to so many things.
Next is courtesy of the floor. Is there anybody here who wants to speak? Come on up. Tell us who you are, where you live.
Well, hold that. Oh, wait.
Here's your wallet.
President.
Good evening, Luke Mullen, resident of Dobbs Ferry. I would like to ask some questions about projects that are happening in the village. My first question is, how much did the stormwater drain cost for Gould Park and the pool? And the second thing I'd like to know is about for this year's annual budget for the village, 2024, 2025. This would be a good topic for everyone in the community to know about what is going on, not just what in the village, but also for what's going on with the pool or the stormwater drains.
So I want to thank you for your interest and you coming and raising interesting issues. With regard to the budget, we have had a public meeting and we're going to have a public hearing where that will be all addressed in quite detail, specific detail. It'll be, actually, I think today we're noticing when these meetings will happen, so we urge everyone to tune into the budget meetings and they can learn where their taxes go and how the money is spent. So you raise a good point. With regard to the money spent on Gould Park, that is also on our website, I guess, somewhere. If not, Mr. Yamuda, you could address that issue in an email to him, and we can maybe put that out there if there's an issue as to where we are on that issue. Okay?
I'd be happy to. I'll
That's
give you my
all, Mr.
card on the way out.
Sorry, say again?
No, I have my contact information I can give you on your way out.
Oh, okay, sounds good, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Luke, did you get the newsletter? You signed up for the newsletter? Yes. Okay, because there's a lot of stuff comes through there. And we'll put a park update in the next newsletter because I think we get a lot of questions in general about it.
We should have like a box or something.
Yeah, just a little, something. I don't
That's
know.
an
It doesn't have to be
excellent
every newsletter, maybe every other or something.
What do you think, Margaret, okay?
Okay. You know, there's some major stuff happened the last week. Maybe Rob has some good pictures of, the enormous storm water drains that got drained in, and that can be part of it,
People know
just
why
so
there's
people know.
traffic.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
people seem to think that there's no work going on,
Right.
but there's a lot of work going on. So
That's what I
just-
put in the newsletter last week. I said,
Right.
Yes.
we're on time. I said, stop looking at social media and contact us.
I know, but we could tell people exactly what, like this
Right.
is A, B, C,
I
not the
know,
full
some-
punch list, but just so they.
They're progressing nicely. The weekly meetings are held. The oversight, we have the engineering group that designed it is actually supervising it because they have, the integral part of what they design is what's being built. So right now, I think there was a very small change order at this point, but it's on budget and it's on time. And I'll be happy to discuss any details you may have. Any questions?
And the pool will be open.
That's the plan.
Is there anybody online who has Okay, so let's move into actions. Action item number 1 is to consider a resolution to endorse the efforts of the Climate Smart Communities Task Force of Sustainable Dobbs as set forth in the Climate Smart Communities Annual Progress Report for 2023. We had a presentation made to us during the workshop, and we received the report from them. We appreciate all their efforts and the work that they've done and the money that they've brought into this village as well. And we look forward to working with them on an ongoing basis and their input on how we should effectively use the grants that they've gotten for us. So is there a motion to accept the annual progress report from the Climate Smart Communities Sustainable Westchester? Trustee Taylor, second. Trustee Patino, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Action item number 2 is to consider a resolution authorizing the village administrator to execute a contract with Nelson Pope for professional services in connection with groundwater monitoring, well sampling, and annual reporting at Waterfront Park. So you can correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, but every year we have to submit this report. In the past, we've used, I think, another firm to do this work, and this year we've decided to give the work to Nelson Pope. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mayor. It's a 5-year program, 5-year testing mandated. It's a voluntary testing on our part over at the Waterfront Park to maintain the cap and to see what's happening underneath it. So, yeah, it's a 5-year program with a 1-year, every year report that's due from the engineers.
And this is, the fee for doing this is $12,070. Is that correct?
Yes, slightly lower than the existing bid that we had for the last 5 years.
Okay, so is there a motion to authorize the village administrator to execute a contract with Nelson Pope as set forth in the proposal dated February 28, 2024? Trustee Galen. Second. Never look left.
What's going on?
Trustees Frozen Asher, all in favor? That passes unanimously. I was just hypnotized.
When he looks down here, I'm going to do this.
Yep.
I never look left. Is there,
Roll your
next,
chair over there.
action item number 3 is to consider a resolution establishing a schedule for public workshop, public hearing, and tentative adoption date for fiscal year 2024, 2025 budget. So this is what I was alluding to previously. By law, we are mandated, and we would do it anyway because it's the right thing to do. We want to be as transparent as possible. Like I said, people pay taxes, they have the right to know where that money goes. So everything we've done has been very transparent, and we continue to be transparent in this. So, and I'll just say this piecemeal. A public workshop was held on March 8th, 2024. We are setting a public hearing for March 26th, 2024, and we will consider the adoption of the budget at a meeting on April 9th, 2024. So those dates will be in the village newsletter. Everyone should be aware of those dates, and certainly are welcome to attend those meetings. So is there a motion to schedule for a public workshop, public hearing, and tentative adoption date for fiscal year 2024 to 2025? Trustee Gaylor. Second, Trustee Taylor. All in favor? That passes unanimously. So those dates, again, we will put in the newsletter, and they will be on our website.
And that's for the village budget, which is about 15 to 20% of the taxes that folks pay, right?
Good point.
Correct.
So it's like 17% of that, we have to pay the police, the DPW, the village administrator.
Rec,
There's your 15%
recreation.
right there.
Just to point out that it's not the bulk of the taxes that our residents pay.
Right.
Correct. Because you have town, county, and schools, which make up the bulk of your taxes.
Action item number 4 is to consider a resolution approving a request for the Dobbs Ferry Youth Little League Opening Day Parade of April 13th, 2024. Is there a motion to approve this day? Trustee Galen, second. Trustee Taylor, all in favor? That passes unanimously. We want to thank everyone for their efforts in volunteering for that. I think they worked out the path with the chief, and that's going to go as smoothly as always, and hopefully it won't rain. Action item number 5 is to consider a resolution to authorize the 13th annual Riverkeeper Sweep at the Dobbs Ferry Waterfront Park on Saturday, May 4th, 2024. Again, why do we have to authorize these if we're not closing anything? Why does the board have to authorize these things?
It was really a question, just to make sure, going into my first season of, we received like 4 or 5 different requests from different groups at different times, different locations, and I just want to make sure that it did not require board approval. And I just want to make sure, again, for safety purposes, any volunteers have to fill out a hold harmless kind of thing. But I just wanted to run it past the board before I gave out any dates.
Okay. So is there a motion to authorize this event? Trustee Patino, second. Trustee Rosen-Asher. That passes unanimously.
I just want to point out, this is in addition to the one that is scheduled and was discussed. It's the same location as you discussed during your work session today, too, so.
Right. And we should point out that in the work session today, we approved the at least three events, and I think 3 other events that you provided.
Yes, thank you.
Action item number 6 is to consider okay, so this is very festive. This is what, okay. So is there let me just take a step back. We've decided that Ferry Festa will be held on Saturday, October 5th, 2024. And I think for the first time ever, based upon the last 2 years of having horrible weather or questionable weather, we've decided to do a rain date, and the rain date will be Sunday, October 6th, 2024. We didn't do so in the past for various reasons, but based upon how it's been working out, there's been complaints, valid complaints, so we've decided as a board to hold a rain date. So the Saturday, October 5th, will be the date of the Ferry Festa, but if there is a rain date, it will be October 6th, 2024. So is there a motion authorizing the street closure of Cedar and Main Streets for the 2024 Ferry Festa? Trustee Galen, second. Trustee Taylor, all in favor. That passes unanimously. Action item number 7 is to consider a resolution to authorize a budget transfer for and approve the police department equipment purchase. Jeff, do you want to explain a little bit about that?
I think the chief might.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. These two items that we're requesting for purchase to replace our in-car cameras that went end of life last year and our in-car laptops. So I initially planned to budget for it in the 24-25 budget, but I've been advised that there are funds available, hence my request to make the purchase now.
Okay, so they cost, one of them cost $52,480, is that?
That's to replace all the in-car laptops for the officers to do their work from the police car. That includes mounting hardware printers that also assist them in writing uniform traffic tickets, as well as their reports. And then the other item is the in-car dash camera, which ours has ceased to work at this point.
Okay, so, and Jeff, this is technically a budget transfer?
Yeah, this is a transfer from the contingency, like the chief said, end of life equipment, and we have funds we can use to replace it.
Okay, and you're comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay, so is there a motion?
May I ask a question
Sure.
about this? Is the body worn camera addition have any impact on the car camera? So is this a necessary redundancy or potentially an unnecessary one?
So no, so the weakness of the body cameras is that they do not potentially capture actual events outside the vehicle. So what occurs is, as the officer is responding, the body camera is just basically, once the lights are activated, it's just going to pick up the steering wheel. So you're not seeing what occurred, what's going on outside. What the in-car camera is doing is it is capturing potentially the violation. It's capturing everything that is occurring as the officer is going to scene, what is occurring as they roll up on the scene, especially if the event is occurring dynamically outside. And then once that officer exits, then the body camera will begin to pick up the areas that it did not get. So they work in tandem. This is the same company, so everything syncs together. Additionally, this newer technology is cloud storage, so I don't have to worry about CDs that we're holding downstairs. Our original system has nursed it along as best I can. It is time to upgrade that system.
Okay, Mike?
Yeah.
So is there a motion to authorize the budget transfer for the purchase of the interior vehicle cameras and laptops? Trustee Galen, second. Trustee Rosen Asher, all in favor. That passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Action item number 8 is to consider a resolution approving the audit of claims as submitted and recommended by the village treasurer. Jeff, this is all normal, routine?
Yep, normal routine.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve the audit of claims? Trustee Galen, second. Trustee Taylor, all in favor. That passes unanimously. Okay, so I want to add some items that we didn't get to on the workshop. So,
Well, Mayor,
oh, there is one other action item.
journalist,
Yeah.
Journalism supporting.
So as people probably aware, the Enterprise has closed, and we do not have any local news outlets covering local news, not only just for Dobbs Ferry, but for the surrounding river towns. There's a bill in the state Senate that proposes tax incentives to publishers to employ journalists. We have been asked to issue a resolution which would encourage the state to pass this law, not just beyond the Senate, but for the governor and for the Assembly to add this to their budget so that we could perhaps encourage local news organizations from existing and to report on what's happening in our village and nearby communities. So we've been asked to do this motion, and I'm going to do this pretty much ad hoc, so help me with this.
Do you want to take a motion just to add it to the agenda?
So is there a motion to add what I just said to the agenda? Trustee Rosen Asher, second. Trustee Patino, all in favor? This is now added as action item number 9.
Number 9?
Number 9.
Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Village of Dobbs Ferry that we urge Governor Kathy Hochul and the state legislature to include provisions in the state budget to support local journalism across the state. We recognize the critical role of local journalism in fostering an informed and engaged citizenry, promoting democracy, human rights, and good governance. We call upon the governor and state legislature to prioritize the passage of the Local Journalism Sustainability Act to ensure the continued availability of reliable and comprehensive local news coverage for our community. We emphasize the importance of local news outlets in keeping citizens informed about the work of their local governments, promoting civic engagement, and facilitating community involvement. Be it further resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately upon its adoption. Is there a motion as I outlined it? Trustee Galen, second. Trustee. Yeah, let me just do that. Trustee Rosen Asher, before I do take the vote, go ahead.
Oh, I was just curious about, are we, in this proposed resolution, it doesn't sort of define journalism and news. I was just curious, are we modifying the proposed resolution to be more specific that we're advocating for some kind of definition around that, so that if it moves to a place where there are tax incentives provided to news outlets, that they are truly going to news outlets and not to.
There is in the actual, if you read the Senate bill.
That's, okay, in
It
the bill
outlines
itself.
that it had to be in business for, I think, at least a year. There has to be journalists, they have to be on the ground, they have to, so there are more specific, I mean.
Right, no, I saw that, but you feel that, I mean, I'm just checking in that folks feel that that's a tight enough sort of set of boundaries that, I mean, of course, this is not binding upon the state. I mean, of course, I want to support a resolution that says that we want to see any incentives that are possible to encourage local news.
Well, it's
I just
being
wanted to
adopted
check in about that.
statewide. Nobody's probably not sitting waiting for what we're going to say.
Right, no, I was just
wording of
curious.
this.
I'm just
And
curious in terms
Albany
of
could
what
also
we decided to.
modify the statute if it somehow appears to be being misused. So I'm
Right.
confident with it.
Okay, great, just checking in about that.
I'm okay with it. I didn't actually read that section, so I can't, like, I don't know if it's, I don't, like the one you just referenced, so I don't know, but in general, I'm in favor of it.
Totally.
Those are good issues, to make sure that it is local journalism. So we have the motion, so just a vote. All in favor? That passes unanimously.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, who
Trustee Galen.
first and
Second, Trustee Rosen Asher.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, adding to the agenda, just following just discussion. So one of the discussions is the lower Main Street parking. I think Trustee Galen, you had wanted to discuss that?
So we've heard from a number of residents and business owners south of Chestnut on Main Street and also in other areas in that kind of lower part of the downtown, that the new parking regime that we've put in place, which tries to incentivize parking at 99 Cedar, for example, but accommodates downtown Main and Cedar residents at village lots if they choose to pay a higher permit fee, that it's just too far for folks to walk to their cars if they live south of Chestnut. You know, it's not realistic to ask them to park, you know, if they're daily commuters, to park at 99 Cedar, for example, or even to pay for the lot behind Village Hall if they live down by Walnut Street. That's really quite a poke to get to your car. So we were raising some options to And the other issue is that the permitting system, the Park Mobile system, is now 8 AM to 8 PM. So it makes it very difficult if you live on lower, particularly the southernmost part of Lower Main, and you commute to work, and then you get back from work before 8 PM. There's no real place for you to park. You can park and pay a meter, but if you're parking for more than 2 hours, if you get home from work at 4 PM, now you can't park in your own sort of, even within a few blocks of your home for enough time to make it to the 8 PM cutoff. So some of the ideas that we had raised to simplify it, if you would like me to jump into that, were adding Lower Main either from Chestnut or maybe starting at the library, for example, so a little further from the Village Hall lot, adding that to the Palisade High Street zone, which I think ends enforcement at 6 PM-ish. Yes, we think so? No? Yes. And the thing is, there are really only a couple of, the idea behind moving most of the downtown to 8 PM is to help keep flow going for the businesses. We have, most of our downtown businesses are kind of later evening businesses, so if we have the meters going till 8 PM, you keep some of those spaces in front of those downtown businesses, like the restaurants and bars, open, but there's only a couple of later night businesses that are open on Lower Main, meaning south of Cedar. They're all within like the first 2 buildings of Lower Main. So past that, you don't have the same, there's not the same importance of keeping the flow going till 8 PM, so cutting it off at 6 could make more sense. And then we also threw out the idea of maybe permitting downtown resident permit holders who currently can park in the Village Hall lot and the Oak Street lot to park maybe on Lower Main past the library after 6 PM, or kind of treat that as an additional residential parking lot for certain hours. So it sounds like, I think this is probably, we need to kind of flesh this out. Okay, well, we can, obviously, we can figure out what we can and can't do legally, but,
That one you can't do.
okay, well, we need to solve a problem
Yeah, no,
for
I
the
think it's a good
residents
idea
and
to,
business
the
owners.
6 o'clock thing certainly.
The 6 o'clock thing makes sense to me, and I would start at the library. I mean, the library's open often past 6, and it's important that there are spaces available for library
Sure, yeah.
patrons. Does anybody know off the top of their head whether the Lobster thing does, they don't seem to be a big dinner place, but I don't know.
No, I mean, they have used the parklet during the summer, but I'm not sure that their hours go into the evening, even during the summer. I'd have to double check.
And it would essentially be taking that area south of the library and reverting it to what it was before, which is 6 PM with meters.
And we already have, the idea is we already have a zone that could be deployed, like we wouldn't be adding a new zone, we would just
It seems
change
to make-
that.
We just change the
Fine,
zone.
makes
for
perfect
that.
sense.
It just seems to make total sense, and
Yeah,
if we
I-
realize it doesn't or causes other problems, we can change it.
Yeah, I mean, I know for Steve, this is gonna mean changing a couple of signs, and for the chief, it's gonna mean reprogramming that zone to go up to south of the library, but hopefully, I know Steve's team has been doing a lot with the signs, so it's kind of annoying, but, yeah, if everyone's okay with it, we can.
We need to
try
do a resolution on this, or is it,
We have to ask Lori Lee.
Lori Lee ran away.
Yeah.
Laura Lee,
Laura Lee,
Lori Lee,
do we need to do
a
a,
resolution if we change it to 6?
Laura Lee, do we need a new resolution?
oh,
Palisade
wait,
starts
we're,
at 5?
She's talking about a new zone, we don't really.
Palisade starts at 5?
Palisade and High Street zone starts at 5 AM, goes
Okay, well, maybe we can workshop this in more detail offline, but if folks are generally okay with it, I can.
Yeah, I
it's
think
okay
we
with
just,
me.
I think we just need
something
a
out.
reasonable strategy for the people that live down there, because they clearly have an issue, so I'm fine with wherever, however it gets.
And I just want to know if we need do we need a law on this, Laura Lee?
I have to check the code. It's entirely possible that it's set forth in the code itself, but I can double check the
If
zone.
we already have a zone, We have like, because.
Do you want me to just look it up now?
Yeah.
No, what I'm
Just-
saying
just
is-
wondering, just like from a Park Mobile standpoint, right? We have like, with Cedar and Main as one zone, and then Palisades and
We have a
Redwood is
zone,
another, so
but
we're
Margaret is
switching.
saying that the zone I was thinking of switching it to starts at 5 AM, which we wouldn't want to do because that would mess them up on the other end of the day,
So we need a
so.
new zone.
So we could change that to
But
6 to 6.
I can just,
Yeah, why don't you work with Laura Lee on it, and then next, we're okay with it. If we have to come back and do it, next time we'll vote.
There was some discussion about the businesses needing, on the, I guess you call them the tree streets, the 2 streets away, they needed like a longer period of time that they could park there.
that only applies to folks who live on the tree streets. That doesn't apply to people who live on Main.
I thought that there was a business owner kept coming in regularly and asking for the availability to park somewhere other than Main because he kept having to feed a meter when he could move to the other streets.
I think that's because Main Street is a 2-hour zone, even down there. So maybe if that becomes a 3 to 4 hour zone, that's, 8 AM to 6 PM or something. Maybe Lower Main doesn't have to be a 2-hour zone. 2-hour zones that apply to the highly commercial areas of like, Library and North on Main and then all of Cedar. Maybe we can turn the lower chunk of Lower Main to a 3 or 4 hour zone, as long as we're making a new zone, make it 3 or 4 hours and make it 8 to 6 or something. But we can kind of flesh out a proposal that's more specific and bring it back to everyone.
Yeah, I think there is a consensus that we do want to make it easier for people to Lower Main.
Okay. All right, so let's work
can
on
work
that
with it.
together, and we'll have to work with Margaret and the chief too to make sure that we don't cause a cascading effect
Yes.
elsewhere. All right.
Yes, understood.
Okay,
Thank you, everyone.
and next item is Cedar, Main, pedestrian safety and traffic control. Whose issue is that? Is that yours? Or?
I think we talked about, I don't know that there's any updates since last week on that. I don't know
Is there
why
any
it's
update
back
on
the
that?
agenda.
I'm sorry,
Is there any update on the Cedar, Main, pedestrian safety and traffic control?
No.
We need a traffic study to look at the intersection of Cedar and Main, and it is now on our long, long list of projects that is not going to get addressed
Right, and
immediately.
it wasn't on the list of projects that we looked at on
Well,
Wednesday.
it was
came in
supposed to be,
afterwards.
no, it was on from years ago and also from 6 months ago, but it didn't make it onto that list. So now it's on the list and we will address it.
Okay.
Yeah, if the board wants to assign funds to hire the traffic engineer. We have a traffic engineer at, we have a traffic
Nelson
at
Pope.
Nelson Pope.
Didn't somebody walk that? I mean, Chief, were you part of a group that walked that? And there was no resolution from walking it as to,
Rob would like us to have it studied formally because it involves adding a stop sign, adding 2 crosswalks and
oh, okay,
cutting
well,
it. Yeah.
fine. I
So-
wasn't aware that that's why.
Yeah.
that we were-
It kind of evolved, and again, to do it right, we want to make it better, obviously. I think we need a professional engineer to take a look at what we're proposing.
So it is now on the list, and whenever we get to it on the list is when it will be addressed, I guess. A long, long list.
Okay, and the next issue is the 2024 Phoenicia Flea. So, do you want to talk about that?
Sure. So the Phoenicia Flea, which is a private organization that puts on these traveling, sort of higher end, they're not really flea markets, they're sort of artisan markets based in the Catskills. They've come to Dobbs Ferry the last 2 years. We were told that they're very, very excited to come back to Dobbs Ferry. It's one of their participants' top requested markets, which I think is so fabulous. So they would like to come back this year. River Arts, which has reserved the waterfront park for the music tour on June 1st with a rain date of June 2nd, is very excited to have the Phoenicia Flea back there on the same day, which is what we did last year as well. And so the request is to engage them once again to put on the event, Phoenicia Flea. I believe the fee was $2,500. They also told me that many of their events are actually 2-day events, and that the fee for adding the second day would be $750. So we can consider that. Basically, what we're paying for is all of the effort to produce, market, and make this event happen. I believe Steve and Chief, last year it was a pretty minimal lift on the DPW and police sides from our debrief last year, but correct me if I'm wrong. Yep, getting nods and
Steve,
shakes.
how was
Yeah.
it?
Not too bad, right?
Yeah.
And since it's kind of dovetailing on the River Arts anyway, we've already kind of staffed up down there, so it's sort of a little bit of a 2-for-1.
And I think it actually made both events better to
Yeah.
combine them, because each of the events brought different groups of people that
Exactly.
overlap.
Yes. So options include 1 day, 2 days, and then also River Arts is fine doing Phoenicia Flea is fine agreeing to the River Arts rain date plan if we only want to do a 1 day, but if we do the 2 day for the extra $750, then the other thing that could happen is if the Phoenicia Flea folks wanted to do day 1 and River Arts didn't, because River Arts has a much lower threshold or a lower threshold for pushing to the rain day because of the sound equipment. But Phoenicia Flea could theoretically happen with some drizzle and some light rain. So just something else to consider. So I don't know how we should approach that, but.
And so they're looking to do what days?
So it would be June 1st with the option of June 2nd and/or the rain date option of June 2nd. So, and then otherwise the agreement would be equivalent to last
I think if
year's.
they do this the same day as the River Arts Music Tour, they're gonna get the vast majority of the interest out of it. I mean, it's just a gut feeling, but doing a second day is probably gonna be a lot less exciting to people than if they've done it the day before.
Yeah, I mean, I think the
And
idea
it's-
is that they
and we've
attract
got
different.
all the expenses and all the other difficulty and pressure on staff. I mean, there's a lot of events over the summer
Yeah,
in the
that's
park,
true.
so we don't want to necessarily do something every day.
Yep. Fair enough.
Is that a Saturday and Sunday?
Exactly.
I wasn't there last year. Like, what was the turnout? Was it overwhelming and people really, we really needed a second day, or?
I mean, I think they would have to build the interest. You know, a lot of times if they're in Phoenicia or they're somewhere in the Catskills where people are going for the weekend, the second day kind of, you have a built-in
Yeah, no, I'm
audience
just
of
trying
people who can
to,
choose
I mean,
day
I
one.
agree with you on the
Can't go
point,
on a
but I was just
Saturday.
wondering, you know, if
Yeah.
if it had so many people who, just like, you know, there was no place to park and people wanted to come
Yeah,
back, but, you know, then.
No,
it
I
would be
mean, there
worth
was
doing
still
the second one.
parking, but it was busy. And the other issue is there's some people who want to, like, use the park
Yeah.
just as a park, right? And it doesn't take the whole park, but definitely has an impact
Yeah.
if you just wanted to walk your dog or sit quietly on a bench.
So we're saying 1 day then? Is that what?
That's what I would
I
suggest.
think from
maybe.
a like
Towards that.
testing out the rain date thing again, let's try one, it sounds like this year, and then see how it goes. And we're also gonna coordinate the lineup at River Arts is gonna be a little more kind of toned in, vibe-wise to the shopping experience than it
We're
was
okay
last year.
paying for this, because usually we don't pay for vendors to come in to do events, but we have the last 2 years.
Yes.
So are we okay with continuing that?
I think it's a great event, and it also brings people to the village who don't live in the village, you know, so it's always nice when we bring in other people to see how great Dobbs Ferry is, and they're very high-quality products, and
Okay.
Yeah, we pay for them to curate
Right.
and to establish
and
the
set up.
vendors
and-
that come.
yeah.
They set up, and also part of their contract requires them to bag up everything and just make a pile of the garbage. They don't typically have the same level of impact
Right.
that.
And they set up all the tents and they break down all the tents.
They do
so
it all.
There's not
Exactly.
a variety of quality.
Okay, so that's a go for
So
one.
we're looking at
So
June 2nd?
June 1st, same day as River Arts, which has already been reserved.
Got it.
So June 1st, rain date of June 2nd. I will let them know. Thank you.
And that needs to go on, I'll put that on for a resolution. That needs to go on because we're spending money, so.
Gotcha, thank you.
And I have last year's resolution and last year's agreement, but they should send an updated agreement if they have it. They're very laid back in terms of. their
Yes, I think what they're getting it.
So I usually add a waiver
Great,
document, and I have all that if they need it.
thank you.
Okay, number 2 is, actually not number 2, next is Pride Flag. So that was your thing too?
So we have a pride flag. it is being deteriorated currently in its location. We want to make sure we have a great-looking pride flag for the the Greenberg Pride Festival, which is in Dobbs Ferry. And we also, there was talk about moving it to one of the potentially new crosswalks once we redo this aforementioned Cedar and Main pedestrian safety overhaul. That is not happening anytime soon. Plus, the back lots are being repaved this year potentially. So option one, I think we need to have a nice looking flag. So from my perspective, option one, repaint the existing flag in the existing location. Option two, paint the same flag design in the existing crosswalk that crosses Cedar Street from Sushi Mike's to the Aqueduct ramp. Do that first and then paint over the existing one. The reasons to do that are, one, it should be in a crosswalk anyway. Two, apparently there's a Veolia water main under there that's somewhat sensitive, and there could be more getting scratched up there over the coming year, so may as well put in a crosswalk since we want to do that anyway, and since we have to repaint anyway, why not put it in a better location?
I'm all for that second option. I mean, it's the thing we talked about originally.
Yep.
Talked about a number of times. I see no reason to tie this to this bigger project about the lots and all the other painting. I don't know why it got wrapped up in that the last time we talked about it.
Yeah, so it would be same flag
Yeah, I
design,
mean,
just
just
in the
like-
crosswalk.
You know,
Okay. Steve, you see a problem with that?
Yeah,
Mr. Trezor,
What happens to the existing flag, though? I mean,
they're gonna paint over it.
you're gonna cover it or paint over it?
First, we
or
do
it's gonna-
first we do the new one, then we paint over the old one.
Okay.
I just want to remind everyone that the location where the flag is now was not our original location, and it was the location chosen by a previous village administrator after we had all of this conversation about it. So I think we should paint the new one, paint over the old one. I also want to go back to the idea of getting the flags to hang so that we have
And we
pride
have an-
flags, American flags,
we have an
actual flags to decorate.
We have an item in our agenda for tonight.
I saw
Yeah.
I saw it.
So we have to,
It was like $13, right.
50, we can go 50 flags or 100.
And I like the American flag too, so.
Yeah, every other.
Yeah.
great.
So do we need a resolution for that? Because it was it was pretty inexpensive, right? So do we need a resolution for that, Laura Lee? It
What was the total?
was like 1,200?
You only need a resolution if it goes over 20,000.
That's what I was gonna say.
And we have the funds for it, so.
All right,
So
let's
every
just-
other flag plus,
Yes,
So I'm sorry, 50 flags, half American flag, half pride flag?
Right.
yes.
well, I don't know if it's 50 total or if it's,
50 of each? Is that what you
Steve, is it 50 each or
50
it's?
each or 50 total?
We already have the American flags.
Okay.
Great. And then,
And we have
Steve,
the,
Together.
and we have
We're gonna
the,
have a grinder here. Can we clean up the places where the paint got smeared when the yellow lines were done? I think there's one on Beacon. There's one,
Beacon looks great.
oh, it does?
When's the last time you were on Beacon?
It's been a while.
Beacon is fantastic.
Oh, there we go.
problem solved.
But,
We paved it last,
And
He
yeah, I
doesn't
don't
come to
drive on
that side of
Beacon.
town, you know.
That's not true. I usually go around the other way.
and Steve, we have the brackets for the new flags? Do you need brackets?
there's a package up there already.
Thanks.
so just saying for the record that first we paint the new one.
Yes.
Then we cover the old one.
Yes.
So that we don't inadvertently communicate that we are trying to remove the pride flag without the new location.
Yes.
We'll put that in the.
First one, then the other.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, the last item, which I don't even know if this is your item also. I don't know, Rob, why don't you?
Rob's
tell us?
item.
Yes.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to hit that?
I think you should do the dig.
Yeah, I understand today, Rob DeAnnabelle, we had a nice couple of meetings together after the DIG presentation, and we sat amongst ourselves with a separate meeting, and we came up with 2 pages of bullet points that they wanted to share with the DIG consultants, which we were requested to do. So we sent that in, so that's going to go to the next level. That's part of our as part of the consultant, they wanted to have our input. So now the input's there. I'm not sure what the next step is, that they're going to put it into, I guess, Everybody, when everybody responds.
Yeah.
Well, Shari could fill in the.
Yeah, so the next point in this process is that you have sent over your suggestions to the consultants. The consultants wrote back to Rob and asked to set up a Zoom with whoever, hopefully you and Rob and Rob
Yes.
squared.
Yep.
And the downtown committee and Christie and to go through their suggestions and also so they can take you through pricing kinds of issues, what's viable, what's all the things. So the document that Rob Danable sent over really took into account the recommendations of the consultants for recruitment and connection and things like that. There's a lot of stuff on it. Some of it is kind of tied together, and some of it is more branding, marketing. Some of it's actually hard goods. So the consultants will not go back to help you to kind of put that in one small cohesive thing to then present. They'll present those findings to the county. So the county knows what's going on and
But that
and
gets
with
sort
some
of
pricing ideas.
brought back to the sort of loose committee before it goes to the county, or?
Yeah, so the next, there'll be another meeting now. Now, I would also suggest that you take advantage of the consultants, because they are only available through the county through July 31st, and they are going to do more walkthroughs with other communities, so they're happy to come back. So when you're talking about wayfinding or signage or parking things or facades or whatever it is, they could come back and be as specific as possible so that when they talk about it, they will say, you'll want X amount of signs, one here, one here, one here, one here, things like that. So I would say definitely invite them back. And then gets presented to the county, just so the county is aware of what's going on, and also so it can uncover where there are similarities between the communities, and perhaps the county could help out, and where there might be issues that will require more attention or advocacy that the county might be able to help with.
Great.
Okay, reports. Do you have any reports? Mr. Gillen?
Pretty much covered it.
Shari, you have any reports?
Yeah, I mean, I know that the Human Rights and Diversity Committee put out a statement for, Women's History Month, and also they were asking about the pride flags and stuff, so I'm sure they're going to be very happy about that. The Beautification Committee has an Earth Day cleanup on April 20th, so hopefully everyone will come down for that, and that's it.
Okay. All right, thank you. Trustee Patino?
I have no announcements.
Larry?
No announcements, other than sustainable, obviously, from anyone who was at the workshop heard, has continued to do great work for the village, including getting us numerous grants.
Okay. I want to report that I and Trustee Rosenberg had our first coffee with a trustee on Saturday at Climbing Wolf. I would say we met with about 10 to 12 residents. It was very informal, and because it was informal, we were able to spend some time and address some issues. I thought it was very successful. We're going to continue to do so. I don't know the next date, but we will certainly publish it, that date and the location. I think it was a great idea, and we look forward to doing it in the future. And I encourage everyone to come down on that when it's happening, and we can just meet with us and discuss what issues are on your mind.
Tentatively April 20th.
So April 20th is the next tentative date. So we will firm that up, let you know which trustees will be there. You should be aware that it's not all of the trustees, it's 2 or 3 of the trustees. And it would be helpful if you had specific questions, maybe send us those questions in advance so we could be able to answer those, but you don't have to. It's an informal process, and look forward to the next date. I have some announcements. This Thursday on March 14th will be the mobile shredder, so if you have things that are papers that are in your home that are just collecting dust and you haven't gotten around to shredding them, you can do the mobile shredder. I don't know the time, but I know it's at Waterfront Park. 9 to 12. So you can come down and with your own personal stuff. You can't bring your business paper, but you can bring your personal stuff down. I have a note here that early voting for the presidential primary, which surprised me, presidential primary, is on Saturday, March
Surprised you.
23rd. Yeah, who's running against Biden in a primary?
Please, everybody vote in every election.
Who's running against
There are
Biden?
2 primaries.
Right.
Who?
In New York.
Who was running against Biden?
There are
There are
Republican primaries and
primaries.
Democratic
I
primaries.
don't think
For
anyone's running
both
against.
parties.
I don't know if there is.
They're registered.
It's very
Let's just
important
go
that
on to the-
people vote.
Yes,
What's the
come down and vote. March 23rd through March 30th.
And
We
election
know the
day
location,
Election day is the
is
second,
April
April
2nd.
you know the location for that? Is it
Probably
Hastings?
Hastings.
Hastings.
I think so. I didn't get a listing from the county.
Okay.
Could,
gonna be
ask them.
Next is the curbside textile recycling program. That is something that's brand new. They will come to your home if you schedule it, and they will come and take your textiles and recycle them. You should go to Helpsy, that's HELPSY.com for more information. The Senior Citizens St. Patrick's Day Party at the Embassy Center is Tuesday, March 19th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. The Taste of Dobbs Ferry, which I believe benefits the JCK Foundation, which I think is at 3 restaurants, if I remember correctly. They're offering Taste of Dobbs Ferry for a flat fee, and the proceeds go to this foundation. The Rec Department is having its Easter egg hunts, a flashlight egg hunt on Friday, March 22nd at 8 p.m., grades 3 and up, and egg hunts on Saturday, March 23rd, 2 p.m. for pre-K through 2nd grade. So we look forward to that, and again, you can look at our website and the Rec Committee's website for more information. Is there a motion to close tonight's meeting? I'm adjourning into advice of counsel.
So you're just going to close the meeting, and then you can conduct advice of counsel.
So is there a trustee Rosen?